Welcome back. Let's think about our sixth principle of economics. Markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. So what do we mean by this? We mean how many and who. So for example, how many high-end bicycles should we manufacture in a year? What color should they be? Who gets them? This is the coordination problem. So economics is the study of how society manages its scarce resources. And there are different systems that manage these resources differently. So if we think of these systems as a spectrum, on one end we have communism, and on the other end we have free markets. On the communism end, this tends to be a system with no private property, or very little private property, or most property controlled and managed by the government. It's generally a system that is centrally planned, and it revolves around government control. At the other end of the spectrum is free markets. These are based on private property, decentralized decision-making, and very limited government intervention. Sometimes this is referred to as laissez-faire, or hands-off type approach. Now, if you think about these two extremes, we probably don't want to live in either extreme, in a world where everything is centrally planned and we don't get to make any decisions, or a world where there's no government intervention and just anything goes. Neither one of those sound like the optimal system. So most countries and most systems are somewhere in between, as some sort of mixed economy. So principle number 6 is that markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Now note, we said usually, not always, and not never. Most of the time, they're a good way to organize economic activity. So what is a market? Well, a market is just a group of buyers and sellers. They don't even need to be in a single location. We just need a group of buyers and a group of sellers and a way for them to communicate. So what do we mean when we say organize economic activity? This is answering the question of what is produced, how is it produced, how much is produced, and who gets what is produced. So wait a minute. Buyers and sellers, decentralized, not in the same location, just need to be able to communicate with each other. Do you mean nobody's in charge? That's exactly what we mean when we're talking about markets. No one's in charge. We all have a say. This is the democratization of economic activity. So a market economy allocates resources through the decentralized decisions of these many households and many firms as they interact in markets. So how do they communicate with each other and how do they coordinate? Well, the communication happens through the price system. This includes values to buyers and the cost to the sellers. So let's hop in the Wayback Machine and go back and think about some work from Adam Smith. So Adam Smith, thought to be sort of the father of economics, pointed out that voluntary trade makes both sides better off. So to make money, sellers need to provide more value to the customer than the customer pays. So he said this will lead households to act as if they're guided by an invisible hand. As if that invisible hand is pushing them towards society's desired outcomes. Now, not perfect, but act as if there's somebody behind the curtain pulling all the strings. So let's think about how self-interest can lead to the common good. So if we go back to our spectrum, on one end of communism, where everything is centrally planned, owned, etc., there are no property rights, this is a system that requires people to care about their fellow citizens and contribute based on that care. Is there enough caring to do all this good that we need done? On the free markets end, this is a system that's motivated by self-interested individuals. And how do they achieve their self-interest? Well, they're going to provide value for other people in exchange for money or goods. So on the free markets end, this requires self-interest. It causes people to act as though they care. So is there enough self-interest? There's an awful lot of that to go around. So when it comes to markets, markets encourage us to share resources with others. As kids, we're often taught to share, but most of us aren't all that good about it, especially because we're not sure that others will share back with us. Think interacting with strangers. You probably don't share your food with every stranger that walks by. But in a market system, we do end up sharing a lot. We just call it trade. So for example, the US shares blueberries with Canada. Most of us don't really know anybody in Canada, but they pay us with dollars or goods, and we share the blueberries with them. Maybe they share some maple syrup back with us. So principle number 6 is that markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Now we said that this invisible hand process works through the price system. So it's the interaction of buyers and sellers that determine prices. These prices reflect the value of the buyers and the cost the sellers. And these prices then guide those self-interested individuals and households to produce and make decisions that in many cases maximize society's economic well-being. And if you're thinking, whoa, wait, this sounds awfully idealized and too good to be true, well, what happens if the price system fails? You may remember an old Verizon commercial where this guy walking around on his cell phone saying, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?" Testing the ability of the network to communicate. Well, if the price system fails, it's like not being able to hear the other end of a cell phone conversation, and we end up with mixed up results. So markets coordinate through prices, and if that system breaks down, the markets will break down as well. We'll think about some possible remedies for market failure in another video. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.